So before we begin the webinar, I'd just like to let you all know that this presentation is being recorded in case anyone would like to review the information provided after the event today. And also to let you know that we'll have a question and answer session for the second half of our webinar. So if you have any questions during the presentation phase, please direct those to the question and answers box at the bottom of your page. That's the box that we'll be monitoring throughout our discussion today. So you can pop those in there. And today you'll be hearing from myself, my colleague Dale Finnerty, who is the team lead for the international training team in RCPI, and Dr. Aisha Sarwani, who is a clinical fellow in endocrinology at University Hospital Galway. Aisha is going to be talking to you all about her experience in Ireland so far. So firstly, I'd just like to welcome you all, or as we would say in Ireland, Kate Míle Fáilte. This means 100,000 welcomes. I know you all have busy schedules, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. To begin, I would like to give you a small bit of background information on Ireland. So as you may know already, Ireland is an island in Western Europe with a wealth of history and culture. We're a small country with just under 5 million people and a very mild climate. As a society, we're known to be safe, stable, and friendly. English is the spoken language here, although our native language, Irish, is taught in schools across the country and still spoken fluently in a couple of areas around the country. So Ireland is also very accessible by air, with many direct flights to the Middle East and Europe and to other countries besides. This makes it a very popular destination for education. We have a proud medical and scientific heritage and are internationally recognized as a centre for excellence in postgraduate medical training. From a technology, life sciences and medtech point of view, we're regarded as a world leader. The majority of the world's top software and technology companies have bases here, and we are the second largest exporter of medtech in Europe, despite our relatively small size. So to give you a little bit of background information on our college then, you may already be aware that the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland is the oldest and largest postgraduate medical training body in Ireland. And training here is divided up by discipline. So at RCPI, we house 6 distinct training bodies responsible for delivering training in the specialties and subspecialties of medicine, pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, pathology, public health medicine, and occupational medicine. As you may be aware, there are individual colleges then that we work alongside that provide training in anesthesiology, surgery, psychiatry, and other specialties. So although we work closely with those colleges, we are separate from them, and we don't deliver training in those specialties ourselves. Our college was established in 1654, and today we offer not just postgraduate medical training, but also specialist exams, professional competence schemes, continuing professional development programs, clinical leadership programs, research and quality improvement and assurance programs. We have approximately 13,000 trainees, members and fellows spread across over 90 countries worldwide. So here at RCPI, we provide postgraduate specialist training at a core and higher level across 36 subspecialties. We have 2 national programs of basic specialist training and higher specialist training, and 2 international programs of residency training and clinical fellowship training. The national and the international programs are very similar in terms of structure and content, but there are some key differences in areas such as duration of training. So as you'll be aware, we're here to talk about the International Clinical Fellowship Programme today. And this is specifically the clinical fellowship programme that's available to doctors that are financially sponsored by their governments to undertake training in Ireland, and with whose countries RCPI has a formal agreement in place to provide that training. So our clinical fellowship programme offers hands-on clinical training at a higher level to doctors who are post-residency. Our fellowship programs are 2 to 4 years in duration, all completed in Ireland. And The training is curriculum-based and includes clinical training, educational courses and meetings, and structured evaluations of progress. It's available across each of the 36 specialties that RCPI provides training within, and there are options then to do subspecialty training within those areas as well. Certificates issued at the end of training are recognized for registration purposes as a specialist in the home country of the doctors that we take into these programs. Although, as you'll be aware, registration requirements do differ country by country, and the graduates of these programs would, of course, have to meet their own national requirements to register as specialists, in addition to having the certificate from RCPI. Our specialist training programs are made up of 4 core elements: the clinical or workplace-based training, the procedural and practical skills training, core academic program, and the annual evaluation of progress. So our trainees complete the clinical training activities outlined in their curriculum. They participate in ongoing teaching under supervision by their consultant trainer and their clinical team, and they track and record their progress using an electronic portfolio. They progress from supervised to independent execution of procedures and practical skills, and they receive feedback via competency-based assessments such as a DOPS or a mini-KEX. Each trainee completes a mandatory and non-mandatory course program as well. These courses can be online or workshop-based, where they learn about leadership, communication, ethics, research, clinical audit, and other areas. They would also attend national and international conferences where they have the opportunity to present their work in some cases. Trainees also participate then in a formal evaluation process completed by an RCPI interview panel each year, where their progress is assessed against the curriculum requirements for their specialty and their satisfaction of the competency-based outcomes for their specialty. Some specialties then also include a summative assessment component, but that does differ by specialty. Within RCPI, as you can see here, we provide clinical fellowship training in a range of specialties underneath each of the overarching specialties of medicine, pediatrics, pathology, obs and gynae, public health medicine, and occupational medicine. So recruitment for these specialties for our July 23 intake will begin this summer. But today, as you'll be aware, we're here to talk about the additional posts that are available for a January 2023 intake. So for medicine at the moment, we'll be accepting applications into geriatric medicine, medical oncology, nephrology, rehabilitation medicine, respiratory medicine, and rheumatology. In pediatrics, it's pediatric endocrinology, pediatric neurology, and pediatric rheumatology. For pathology, we'll be accepting applications to chemical pathology and immunology. And in obstetrics and gynecology, it is for labor ward. We understand then that moving to a new country, a new culture, new healthcare system can be challenging. And we've put a number of supports in place to ensure that anyone moving to Ireland would have as smooth a transition as possible. So we provide relocation support through Castell Education, and Castell would look after medical council registration, visa applications, accommodation, temporary and permanent on moving to Ireland, education requirements for family members, and they also help with day-to-day issues such as banking, mobile phones, health insurance, and other areas. Within RCPI, then there's a dedicated training team, and this team provides advice and support to our international trainees from interview through to graduation and beyond. And really that's around the recruitment and selection process, the relocation to Ireland, medical council registration and visa requirements, training requirements, membership exams, training site liaison progression, and much more. We're going to take a quick look now at the application process. So as you may be aware already, we'll be opening tomorrow for applications to those specialties that I've mentioned previously. And we'll be open then for a period of 3 weeks. We plan to interview across April of this year, and then successful candidates would start in post in January 2023. The application link will be live on the RCPI website from tomorrow, and anyone that would like to receive the link directly can email us at internationalaffairs@rcpi.ie, and we'll send you the link by email. The recruitment and selection process then is outlined here. So candidates will complete an online application form. There's an eligibility check carried out by Dale and the team here. Shortlisting is completed by the program director for the specialty that's being applied for. Applicants then are advised on the outcome of their application at this stage, whether they will progress to interview or not. Interviews will take place via Zoom, and all candidates then will receive the outcome of their interview within 2 weeks. So who is eligible? There are a number of requirements that are mandatory for application, and a number then that you can meet after application before arriving in Ireland. So I'll go through those now. To apply, candidates should have completed a primary medical degree through English, a structured internship, a 4 to 5 year national residency program and associated board exams. They should have provisional sponsorship by a government body with whom RCPI has an agreement in place, a memorandum of understanding. And they should also have an appropriate level of clinical experience, and that's really as determined by the program director reviewing the applications for that specialty. To commence training in Ireland, candidates also have to have a demonstrated level of English language competency. So that's an IELTS overall score of 7 or an OET of B. And they would have to have confirmed sponsorship by a government body at that point to move to Ireland. It is also desirable then that candidates might have the membership in their chosen specialty, and that they would have the full English language requirement and confirmed sponsorship at the point of application. If they do have that, they may be given preference by the program director reviewing the applications, but it isn't mandatory to have those things, and we're absolutely happy to accept applications without those things. So we often get asked what makes an application stand out. So from our side, we would say that is a CV that's well structured, that the information within the CV and the online application form is clear and comprehensive, and that it includes a detailed overview of education and training completed to date, as well as experience. The additional documents have been attached to the application, such as the board cert. The applicant has demonstrated an interest in their selected specialty, and this may be through experience in that specialty or in research activities or courses that they've attended. The applicant has demonstrated experience in areas of research, clinical audit, etc. The applicant may have the RCPI or equivalent, but as I've mentioned previously, these aren't mandatory for application. So don't despair if you don't already have experience in the specialty that you're interested in, if you don't have the RCPI or the English language. A well-structured, clear CV and application form is key. So if you have any questions after the information session today that aren't answered as part of our question and answers session that's coming up very shortly, please don't hesitate to email us at internationalaffairs@rcpi.ie. And I just want to finish up here and say thank you very much for your time. I hope the information that I've shared here has been useful to you. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Dale now. As I mentioned, Dale is the team lead for the international training team at RCPI. And we're joined also by Dr. Aisha Sarwani, who is a clinical fellow in endocrinology in University Hospital Galway. Dr. Aisha is going to be sharing with us her experience on the clinical fellowship program to date. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamsha, and thank you so much to everyone today for attending. I'll just ask Dr. Sarwani to come back onto camera and mute without mute. I think you're just perfect. Thank you so much. So as introduced by Tamsha there, we have Dr. Aisha Sarwani here with us today, who is currently training on the International Clinical Fellowship Program in Endocrinology. So thank you again for attending today, Dr. Sarwani. I want to ask you a few questions just about your experiences on the International Clinical Fellowship Program as a trainee and how, your experiences here in Ireland. So I want to begin by asking you, what was your experience in moving to Ireland for your fellowship training?
Thank you for the invitation, Dale, and hello to everybody. So my experience coming to Ireland has been a great one, a memorable one, an easy transit, I'd say, from Bahrain to Ireland, supported well by RCPI, Castle Education, initially from the time of application until arrival into Ireland, settling into work, finding our space, finding our feet. Everything has been great, and I'm definitely happy to elaborate on anything or any question that arises.
Thank you so much. And can I ask, what do you see as the key strengths of training in Ireland?
So I have seen that the training in Ireland is well advanced. If you'll just give me a second, please.
Of course, no problem.
So I'd say that before starting the training in Ireland, I had gone through the curriculum well enough, and I know that the demands of the training were well. And after having started the training, I feel they're very up to date. The learning opportunities are a lot. There's a lot of teaching opportunities, many meetings, many learning activities. The guidelines are followed. There are a lot of multidisciplinary team meetings, mandatory research projects, audits that keep you going all the time. And it's quite advanced to what I was doing back home. Very happy with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask you, what will you miss the most about Ireland when you return home?
I miss everything about Ireland, from the kindness of its people, the weather over here, how they work in a multicultural environment, how positive the work vibe is, and everybody's working from 8 to 9 hours, and it goes on so smoothly without any aggression. It's exactly the niceness of the people and the positive work environment, and how cooperative everybody is in the work environment that I miss the most.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on now to answer some questions that we have from the attendees today. So I'll divvy out the questions between the panel. So Dr. Sarwani, my colleague, Ms. Tamsha Tracy, and myself. I'll begin with the first question that we have here. So I'll put this to you, Tamsha. Is there an opportunity for fellowship in diabetes?
There is. So to be eligible for a fellowship in diabetes in Ireland, you would have to have completed the board in internal medicine and a fellowship in endocrinology already. And then you could apply for a fellowship in diabetes.
Thank you so much. I have another question in here. Those who are practicing medicine for the past 4 years independently and want to apply for fellowship, are they eligible? Unfortunately, you would not be eligible. We do require, as Tamsha outlined in the presentation, that we do require that you have done your residency training, a structured training program with the incorporated board examinations. So I will move on then to the next question. Tamsha, I will pass this one to you. Do you offer subspecialty training?
We do. Now, it depends on the subspecialty. So maybe that person could let us know which subspecialty that they're interested in particular, because not all of the subspecialties would have the capacity for clinical fellowship training in addition to the training that they're providing to national trainees here in Ireland. So yes, if they'd like to maybe let us know which subspecialty they're interested in, we could clarify more.
Thank you very much. I have another question here from another doctor. Do you accept self-sponsorship? So unfortunately, at this time, we don't actually accept self-sponsored candidates onto the program. I also have another question here about if we offer training in occupational medicine. I will pass this one over to you, Tamsha.
We do, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Dale. We provide clinical fellowship training in occupational medicine. It's a 2-year program.
Okay, perfect. And then Dr. Sarwani, I will pass this one over to you. Can you tell us a bit more, please, about your clinical experiences during your training here in Ireland?
Yeah, sure. So I am doing my fellowship in endocrinology and diabetes. This is my year 1 and I started in Galway University Hospital. It is one of the best hospitals for training in endocrinology and diabetes and has the vastest of all the hospitals. The unit is the vastest. We have like 10 consultants over here, and the training is equally divided, I'd say, between endocrinology and diabetes. So there are clinics in the morning and there are clinics in the evening. It covers type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, pump clinics, antenatal diabetes, pre-pregnancy diabetes clinics, renal diabetes, vascular diabetes, podiatry clinics. I think that will be ranging about the diabetes. In the endocrinology, we have a pituitary clinic, an adrenal clinic, a hypertension clinic, a joint adrenal surgical clinic, a huge variety of clinics spread throughout the endocrinology, I'd say. And the experience is very good. There's a lot of learning opportunities from the nurses, from the dietitians, the diabetic education programs, the insulin pump team. I'd say the opportunities are vast, and it's like how much input you give and how much you can extract from it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have another question here about the requirements for rheumatology and how to apply for that program. So just for rheumatology, the requirements are the same for that program, and that we require that you have a your board and then also have completed your residency. Additionally, the English language requirements. I also have another question here about, do we offer adult immunology fellowships? How long is it? The duration of the program. So Tamsha, I will pass this one over to you.
We do offer adult immunology. As far as I'm aware, the program is 2 years long. Now I would have to maybe double check that as well. Some of our programs are extending to 3 years from this year, but we do provide that specialty. We're not open for applications to immunology tomorrow. So tomorrow we're only open for those specialties that I'd covered previously, but we will be open this summer, likely in June, for applications to all other specialties, and that's for the July 23 intake next year.
Perfect, thank you so much. I have another question in here about if we offer the family medicine boards. We accept the family medicine boards, and we do. The specialties that we accept these boards in are rehabilitation medicine, occupational medicine, which also requires the LFOM exam, palliative medicine, and then public health medicine, also clinical microbiology, which will also require the F4C Path Part 1 in medical microbiology. So I have here another question about respiratory medicine and how to apply. Tamsha, would you like to answer that one?
Absolutely. So to apply for respiratory, you would want to have completed your residency in internal medicine and have your board complete as well. We'll be open for applications from tomorrow. So I'm not sure if this attendee was there when I had reviewed the entry requirements, but you would need to basically have your medical degree through English, your residency program, your board, provisional sponsorship as well by a government body. And then to start in Ireland, you would also need your English language requirement. That's either an IELTS of 7 or an OET of B, and fully confirmed sponsorship. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. I have another question here about if we can offer subspecialty in cardiology. And currently at this time, we are not offering subspecialty training within the cardiology specialty. So I hope that that answers your question. Additionally, I have another question here. If we offer fascioplasty and sports and exercise medicine, so a surgical specialty, and then also sports and exercise medicine. Temsha, would you like to answer that question?
We don't offer training in those areas through RCPI, but for anyone that's interested in training in areas that aren't provided by RCPI, surgeons, for example, if you'd like to leave your email address or just send us an email at internationalaffairs@rcpi.ie, we can refer you to our colleagues in surgeons that look after the clinical fellowships for surgery.
Thank you. I have another question here about the IELTS, and this is a frequently asked question. So if it was more than 7 years ago, would they still be able to use that IELTS exam? Unfortunately not. So the date for them to be in date, they would need to be 2 years from the date that we would make your medical council application. So they would need to be within 2 years of the time that you apply for our programme, and then we would liaise with Castell Education during their support to you to make sure that your IELTS were in the correct date. So I think that's all of the questions we have there for today. Do either of you want to add anything before we end the Q&A session?
I've just noticed, Dale, we have a couple of more questions. I know we were focusing very much on the Q&A box. We have a couple coming through.
Apologies, yes, I see them there. Some of them come through.
So I can see one here about the OET, and they've asked if they'd achieved a B in all parts except for one and they got a C in that area, do they have to repeat the whole test? Unfortunately, yes, you do. The English language requirement isn't an RCPI requirement, it's a requirement of our medical council and of the health service executive in Ireland, so we don't have any discretion over this. And unfortunately, they require you to get a B in all components at the same time. So that would have to be repeated.
I see another question here about urology. Currently, we don't offer training in a pure urology specialty currently at this time. And I can also see here a question about the MRCP. We do offer the MRCPI exam. Our colleagues in the exams department do work closely with us on that. While you don't need it to apply to the programs to be eligible for them, it does certainly strengthen your application. I can see here, sorry, Temsha.
There's another query here asking whether we could share the PowerPoint after the presentation today, and we can absolutely do that. We can also share the recording of this session with you.
I can see a question here about how long is the geriatric medicine fellowship training. So currently we are going to be moving to a 3-year structure for medical specialties. So the geriatric medicine program, clinical fellowship program, would be 3 years in duration.
Perfect. And then there's a query here from an attendee who said that their government does have an agreement in place with RCPI, but if the applicant themselves don't have government sponsorship, can they self-sponsor? So unfortunately, no, it's not possible to self-sponsor on these programs. You would have to have full government sponsorship to come onto these programs. There's also a query here about gynae oncology. At the moment, we don't have this specialty. So our gynae specialties are maternal medicine, labour ward, urogynae and gynae surgery. But we are looking at introducing other specialties under ops and gynae. So what I would say is watch this space and check back with us this summer when we open for applications to the July 23 intake. We might have more specialties under ops and gynae at that time.
I can see here a question about, do we have an age restriction? While there are no age restrictions, we do require that you've completed your medical degree, your internship and your residency program to be eligible for the International Clinical Fellowship program. I can also see here how many years for the duration of the rheumatology fellowship. That will also be moving to 3 years from this year of training. I can see here. Oh, and thank you very much for your words of thanks. So I can see here that they're asking, why was the extra year added to the geriatric medicine? So the overall agreement is for all of medicine really to move, with very few exceptions, to move from a 2-year program to a 3-year program, and that really will strengthen the output. So I hope that answers your question. Temshu, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you, Dale. That's it. Our trainees and their sponsors felt that they would like to have, they'd like to increase the depth and the duration of the clinical fellowship training provided. So initially, when we introduced these programs, we aligned the structure and the duration with the structure of postgraduate medical training in the Gulf countries, where clinical fellowship training tends to be 2 years. So that's what we introduced here with our fellowship training, a 2-year program. And then we were finding that our trainees were requesting to extend their training to a 3rd year. They might have identified a subspecialty area of interest and they wanted to extend into that, or they might just want to get additional training in the general specialty. And so our program directors reviewed the request and decided that it was appropriate to move the clinical fellowship programs in medicine from 2 to 3 years in most cases. There are some exceptions still where 2 years of training will be the extent on the clinical fellowship program. That's really where that came from.
Thank you. I can see another question here in our Q&A box. I'm wondering if when you finish the International Clinical Fellowship Program, it will lead to a board certification. So it won't be a board certificate that you'd receive. It would be a completion of the training, a certificate of completion that you would receive. I can also see here another doctor asking if we offer PICU. Currently at this time, we don't offer PICU with the College of Physicians. Perfect. Perfect. I think that might be all of the questions that we have for today. Perfect. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and we can follow up with the email address where you can forward any further queries that you may have to us, and we can email that to all attendees today, as well as the presentation and the recording of the session. Thank you very much to both of my colleagues today for attending, and thank you very much, Dr. Sarwani, for answering all of the questions that we asked and for giving such a wonderful outline of your experience here in Ireland on our programme.
Thank you for the invitation, Dale. I'd just like to give advice to everybody who will apply, just to have a thorough look at the curriculum and to have realistic expectations about the curriculum and how the fellowship will go in Ireland, and to prepare well for the interview, focusing on all the ethical skills and the clinical scenarios, and to prepare well in hand with the English language certificate. Having it will definitely give them an upper hand. And in regarding to the training extended to 3 years, I will say it definitely does justify the training. There's a lot to learn over here. I don't know how it will affect the sponsorship from the countries. It might be a hurdle for some countries to get the sponsorship for 3 years, but when we come over here for 2 years, and when we see the specialty registrars over here training for 5 years, it definitely feels that the year 3 extension would be much useful for the fellows to come and have much to offer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
We'll end the session here. And again, we'll be in touch with contact details where you can contact all of us and with any further questions that you may have. Thank you very much.